Britain is the birthplace of Western democracy. It's the garden where these ideas first grew, and you're probably aware that this garden isn't doing so well right now. The country that used to run a third of the world can't seem to run itself. British natives are revolting. That's not just the opinion of every left-wing politician. Brits are taking to the streets after years of seeing only Palestinian flags and pride flags fly in Britain, which doesn't make sense. We want to be gay, but we also want to be executed for being gay. We're seeing British flags go up as Brits mark their territory, and we're seeing the government tear those British flags down and tear flags out of the hands of British children. Desperate to contain the native revolt, the government is cracking down on protests and cracking down on free speech. It's locking people up for tweets and hoping that this display of force will cow the population. But of course, it just makes people angrier, and it's spilling into open conflict between, on one side, Islamists and the far left, and on the other side, British patriots. How do we get here, and how can we fix it? Well, several decades ago, Britain's left-wing government embarked on deliberate demographic engineering. They admitted they wanted to rub the right's nose in diversity. Well, we've had some rubbing. I'm amazed we've got any nose left. Tony Blair opened the borders and migrants poured in, first from Europe, and then after the Brexit vote, which was a desperate backlash against mass immigration, the elites doubled down. They said, well, you don't like those guys from Poland, those culturally similar, hard-working guys. Well, how about loads of jihadis from the Horn of Africa, fighting-age men from violent, medieval, misogynistic cultures? And look, I'm not anti-immigration, it's just our borders are completely open. I've seen the impact living in London for 20 years. So many Somalians have arrived that parts of London just don't feel like Bangladesh anymore. The left used mass immigration as a political weapon to reshape the electorate. Brits weren't voting left-wing enough, so the left brought in people who did. It worked for a while. In 2017, 85% of British Muslims voted for the Labour Party. That's a huge block of millions of votes that pretty much replaced the white working class vote who used to vote Labour. But mass immigration wasn't just to gerrymander votes. The left want to destroy Western capitalist democracy, destroy cultural unity, destroy the nation state, and replace it all with a really limp-wristed rubbish version of communism. Mass immigration helps them to do this. This ideological zeal to force diversity on people whether they want it or not has led to friction, to put it mildly. Look at Epping. It's a nice leafy suburb just outside London. The government dumped hundreds of illegal migrant men there within walking distance of a school, including this guy, Hadush Gebrselassie Kibatu from Ethiopia. He'd only been in the country a week when he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl. His trousers were still wet from getting off the boat. Protests sprang up. The mainstream media told us that they're far-right thugs. Honestly, do these women dressed in pink with homemade signs look like Nazis to you? Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to invade Poland. They'll probably hand out biscuits and make sure everyone's wearing a cardigan. And look, when we say asylum hotel, these aren't people seeking asylum, fleeing war zones. They're gaming an asylum system that was designed a long time ago for a very different world. You know that Ethiopian man who assaulted the schoolgirl in Epping? You know how many safe countries he came through to get to Britain? 9, including Ethiopia, where he started, which is now a safe, prosperous country, probably because all the Ethiopian men are in London. And what happened next in Epping is very ominous for democracy. First, a word from my sponsor for this video. Have you ever fantasized about having a secretary? Have you ever fantasized about cramming that secretary into a tiny credit card-sized piece of brushed aluminium less than 3mm thick? This is the Plod Note Pro. You know when you leave a meeting with 19 actions and remember 2 of them? Plod captures everything. It captures voices clearly from up to 5 meters away, even with overlapping chatter. It identifies speakers, and while you're in a meeting, you can even upload key images, jot down quick thoughts, and highlight key moments so you don't miss anything. Ooh, but can't I just use my phone to do this? Listen, phones don't have 4 microphones, noise cancellation, and speaker ID, and phones aren't a magic secretary. After the meeting, Plod distills all the chatter from the meeting down into a clean summary that only highlights what matters, insights that help you decide, and to-dos assigned to the right people. It can even analyse the room, intents, perspectives, power dynamics, so you know who's blocking and who's backing you. And you can hand off the grunt work to new feature, Ask Plod. You can say, draft a stakeholder update, extract just the risk items, or brainstorm launch angles from the last 3 meetings. And it'll do it because Plod Intelligence remembers context across your notes from different meetings. And with one-click forwarding, thing, there's no messing around. The hardware is incredible. It's got this aluminium case that will make your colleagues do the American Psycho business card scene, and there's a display screen so you always know when it's recording and how much battery it's got left. And it's usually got a lot, up to 50 hours non-stop recording and around 60 days standby. It's got Apple Find My and fast transfers, and as well as meetings, it magnetically sticks to your phone to record phone calls, although remember to get consent, you don't want to have a news of the world type situation. Ooh, but will my data be safe? This isn't some eBay gib-gab. This thing has 1 million users and enterprise level compliance with SOC 2, GDPR, HIPAA, lots of numbers and letters, with end-to-end encryption as well. This thing is like having the best secretary in the world in your pocket, but unlike a real secretary, it won't get drunk at the Christmas party and photocopy its bottom and then try to sue you. The Plod Note Pro, it's brand new. You can find out more on the link below. And what happened next in Epping? The residents didn't want the asylum hotel, so the council went to court and got an order to stop the hotel being used for illegal migrants. The residents did the right thing. They engaged with their local politicians and resolved the situation peacefully and properly. But the government ignored the will of the people and went to court to overrule this court order and get the hotel housing migrants again. Government lawyers argued in court that the rights of illegal migrants are more important than the rights of British people, and the hotel should be forced to reopen. They cited European law, so our government sided with foreigners over their own people, and they used foreign law to do so. This is not democracy. Our democracy has become performative. We go through the motions, but all decisions are made by the blob. The far left completed their long march through the institutions. It would have been a quicker march, but they're socialists. Our asylum judges are now progressive activists who stop deportations for the flimsiest reasons, such as an Albanian criminal who's allowed to stay because he didn't like the chicken nuggets in Albania, or a Zimbabwean paedophile who's allowed to stay in Britain because he'd face hostility in Zimbabwe. Listen, paedophiles are supposed to face hostility. He should face hostility in Britain. Epping isn't the only place showing how democracy is fraying in Britain. In Ballymena, in Northern Ireland, there's a strong, stable community with a fair few immigrants from Poland and the Philippines. Hard-working, good people, they've integrated and they get on. Then the government moved in Roma gypsy families. They committed crime and posted on social media with cash and weapons. Families pleaded with authorities. They engaged peacefully with the democratic process and they were dismissed as racist. Be inclusive, you bigots.
Many of the people targeted by this motion are here because they fled war, persecution and hardship, particularly in places like Ballymena. The migrants are not a burden, they are a necessity.
And then a local girl was gang raped and the community had had enough. They took to the streets and they burned down the houses of the problem families. It was brutal and dangerous and it should never have got to that point, but it was undeniably effective. It worked for the community where democracy had failed. By ignoring people when they engaged peacefully and democratically, the government sent a message. Direct action is the only way to resolve your issues. And the government isn't just ignoring people's concerns. The government is clamping down on anyone who speaks out. Journalist Alison Pearson received a visit from the police over a tweet she'd made. Another man was arrested for a post that said F Hamas. And Lucy Connolly sent and then deleted a tweet which was unpleasant but still just a tweet. You know what punishment this young mother got for a tweet? 32 months in prison. There are about 400 hate speech offences recorded each day in Britain. This is insanity. And compare that to how people on the left are treated. Left-wing politician Ricky Jones urged a mob of far-left activists to cut the throats of their opposition. And while Brits feel the full force of the law, the new demographics are treated with kid gloves. The police consult with community leaders to let them choose what sort of policing they'd like to have, like they're picking it from a menu. Pro-Palestine activists drove around Jewish areas of London, shouting out the window, threatening to rape their daughters.
Fuck the movement, fuck all of us, fuck the mothers, fuck the daughters, and show them support for Palestine. Shut them out.
No charges were filed. When violence broke out after the Southport attacks, police advised Muslims to hide their weapons in the mosque to avoid getting in trouble. Hide your weapons in the mosque. But if a British man says, I love bacon, he gets arrested for Islamophobia.
Yes, we love bacon! To be honest, we're talking to all your
How can you arrest him for saying he likes bacon?
And across Britain, we're seeing a clash of values become intractable. A Muslim politician celebrated his election by chanting Allah Akbar.
Raise the voice of Palestine! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
That's Mothin Ali, who's now the Deputy Green Party leader. I'm assuming that Allah Akbar is Arabic for save the whale. A Muslim politician stood up in the Houses of Parliament to defend cousin marriage. In a quest to be diverse and inclusive, Britain's National Health Service is now defending cousin marriage as well, saying it has benefits such as stronger extended family support systems and economic advantages. I'm absolutely fine with Muslims marrying their cousins, by the way. If there's going to be some sort of civilizational showdown, I'd much rather my opponent has an IQ of 65 and webbed fingers. We're probably about a week away from the NHS putting out a leaflet saying that grooming gang rapes are actually good for your cardiovascular health. Over half of Muslims in Britain think that homosexuality should be illegal, compared with just 5% of Brits. 39% of Muslims think that wives should always obey their husbands, compared with 5% of Brits. I've got a feeling that 5% might just be the Muslims who responded. 65% of young Muslims oppose Israel's right to exist at all. And of course, the differences in values culminated with the horrors of the grooming gangs. These are horrors beyond belief. The men burning their names into the skin of 12-year-old girls. Another girl suspected of being killed and put in kebab meat. At least tens of thousands of British girls raped. And when they went to the police, they were ignored. If they were lucky. If they were unlucky, the policeman would also be in the grooming gang and also rape them. Although, on the plus side, the police force that hired the grooming gang rapist, Hassan Ali, hit its diversity targets. And the grooming gangs don't operate in the shadows. When one of these men would get a child incapacitated on drugs or alcohol, they would text their brothers, cousins and uncles the way that you or I would arrange a game of football in the park. I think that if I messaged my cousins and said, hey, I've got a child incapacitated on vodka, do you want to come and help me rape her? I think I'd at least get kicked out of the family WhatsApp group. I guess when we're told about diversity bringing cultural differences, these are the cultural differences they're talking about. And how did they get away with it? The left-wing establishment allowed this to happen, partly out of fear of looking racist. Even now, anyone who notices or speaks about this is called a racist. But Britain is actually such a non-racist place that tens of thousands of children can be raped before Brits will even say, now steady on old chap, that's a bit much. And the grooming gangs were allowed to operate with impunity because politicians were getting votes from their communities. It's literally rape for votes. There is no horror that the leftist political class won't subject us to if it helps them to stay in power. Although it's now backfiring on Labour, and instead of Muslims being a dependable Labour voting bloc, we're now seeing Muslims elect their own candidates on specifically Muslim issues, such as the war in Gaza. So no wonder we're now seeing British people mark their territory with flags. But the British government isn't on the British people's side. We saw British flags that were hung outside a mosque taken down by a council because the people in the mosque said that it was a hate crime. I mean, this is interesting because we were told that these men are as British as anyone, but they don't seem to think that they're British. They don't want our flag. They think it's a hate crime. It doesn't seem to improve with second and third generation migrants. This man was born in England, but he's spitting on the English flag.
So what's really going on here, huh? What's really going on here, huh? Yep, fuck this shit. I know idiot shit, man. Huh? This looks like Sully and Jason in them scenes.
They're a separate community, geographically inside Britain, but separated by about 1400 years. Marking areas with flags has happened in Britain before, in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, and just like in Northern Ireland, it's spiralling into conflict now. When Englishmen hung flags in Stevenage, Muslims came to attack them with petrol bombs. The clash of values is entering a kinetic phase. Britain is sliding into civil war. So what do? The Enlightenment values that the Western world is built on can only survive in a walled garden of brotherhood and common culture. We need to rebuild that wall, close the borders. We don't need to import workers. We've got loads of people already here on benefits doing nothing, and we've got lots of people in the public sector doing very little. We can slash the public sector to free up people to fill productive private sector roles. And the robots are coming. We're going to have robo-taxis soon. And you know what the best thing about a robo-taxi is? It doesn't rape your children. And we should stop bribing people to come here. No foreign national should receive a penny in benefits from the British taxpayer. If we stop giving them money and housing and free stuff, a lot of people will just self-deport. They're not going to stay here for the weather. And we have no moral obligation to take asylum seekers from the Horn of Africa. We have a moral obligation to keep British children safe. People aren't interchangeable GDP generating nodes on a spreadsheet. People's culture and values don't evaporate when they step foot on British soil. If so many parts of the world are violent cesspits, We shouldn't import the cultures that make them violent cesspits onto this island. Instead, we should resurrect the British Empire and run these failed states for them. And we need to change the attitudes of left-wing people. The left said they wanted to rub the right's nose in diversity. Well, now it's time to rub the left's nose in diversity. The balkanisation of Britain, the separation of areas, should be encouraged. Illegal migrants should be moved to the left-wing areas. Their hotels should be next to left-wing parents' schools. They should defecate in the flower beds of left-wing people. Left-wing people should experience the consequences of their luxury opinions instead of letting working-class girls suffer. The hard left have captured all of our institutions. I'm not just talking about the state apparatus, but things like policing, the judiciary, academia, and culture. We need to unpick this, and we need to encourage patriotism and not let it be smeared as racist. America holds together as a multiracial democracy because everyone is American first. Britain needs to learn from that and bring back its patriotic spirit. Britain and its brother countries, Australia and America, are the greatest countries in the world. Everyone should feel proud of that and fight to save it. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you want to support me making these videos, you can sign up to my Patreon and get exclusive content and early access and stuff like that. And also, I'm doing a show in Southampton on the 26th of November. I'm going to do more shows around the country, so you can see my gig list on my website if you want to check those out. And also, don't forget to pick up your Plod Note Pro on the way out. It's genuinely a very cool thing, very science fiction-y. Look at that, it's so thin. It's like the thing in Superman that they get trapped in and then go spinning off into space. I'm just amazed that stuff can be so thin these days. And they're very nice people and they gave me money to advertise this, which I really appreciate. Okay, thanks for listening. I've been Leo Kears. Bye. Bye-bye.